Hello, and welcome everyone to our next amazing episode here of Expert Momentum. I am Ken Korse, your host as always for this show. Expert Accelerator, expert to the experts, founder of Your Momentum Now, and many other different efforts, but instructor here for you in Amy Carrier's classroom. Very excited and grateful to be here as always with the amazing team of instructors who I know are out there being as supportive as ever and supportive as always. And if you are not spending time going through getting to know the other instructors in this classroom, all the amazing things they do, make sure that you're doing that and make sure that you give some love to all of the amazing instructors, especially Amy herself when she comes back to the broadcast. But amazing education all throughout this classroom that you can get on all sorts of different things. So highly recommend that you take advantage of everything that's here in the classroom. And again, as I mentioned on previous sessions, what's really important to remember is this is the type of education that here in the United States, where I'm broadcasting this from, actually Boston, Massachusetts, for those of you who don't know where I'm from, this is the same type of education that people will pay thousands of dollars USD for to get in the States for workshops or for trainings and that kind of thing. So again, if you have questions, if you want to know more, part of the reason I do this is part of my giving back so that all of you out there get a chance to compete on the same playing field that we do here in the US, and the same types of tips and structures and strategies and things that I've learned being in this industry, what I would call the expert industry or the speaking industry, for over 11 years. So thanks so much again to all of you for being here. And so I'm going to go ahead and set up my shot really quick, but please, if you're out there, let me know, where are you from? Where are you watching this from? And if there's anything that you can get out of my lessons here or any of the lessons here in Amy Carrier's classroom, please let me know so that we can start covering those on future sessions. I definitely want your interaction, even if you're watching this on a recording and you're not here live, because I know we're always dealing with time zones and there's issues with that all over the world. So you may be watching this, from anywhere in the world, and you might be watching a recording. I will respond to those. Any of the instructors here will respond to those as well. Thanks, Julia, for being here. Just looking forward to learning more about this today. So again, so grateful for all of you being here. And so I'm going to go ahead. Whoops, I got myself set up on the wrong screen. So let me get set up so that we can go ahead and get our presentation for today ready. I'm really excited to give this one. It's a kind of a follow-up in some ways to what we did last week. And so I know that the next biggest question that I get after teaching what I taught last week in that session was, all right, so I recommend, and I'm going to review some of that content, that everybody that's watching this video should be working on organizing their events. And in particular, organizing what's called your preview event. And a preview event, for those of you who aren't familiar with that terminology or how it works or how that is really people's first taste of you and what you do, how you do it, how everything works. It's the first taste that most people are going to get of all the stuff that you do. So at this point, I want to make sure that all of you understand why these events are so important to do and why they matter so much in the grand scheme of things. But really, today's session, we're going to focus a ton on how do you find an audience, or how do you start to put people into your first or your next preview event? Because maybe you have done an event before. Maybe you have done a training online. Maybe you have your own group or your own classroom. All of those things are great, but really the key thing that's going to determine whether or not you're successful is what happens in this phase. So I'm going to go through some of those phases again if you missed last week's lesson. I would highly recommend, though, that you go back and you watch last week's lesson if you missed it. But this is all about, how do you really make sure that people show up? How do you make sure that you have people that are there to see you speak, that are there to see you teach and help with all that kind of thing? And for anybody that has done an event before in the past, and I'm sure Julia has faced this as well, this is the hardest thing to figure out for most people. This is the hardest step. So my name's Ken Korse. For those of you who haven't caught an episode of Expert Momentum before, you haven't been here in the classroom with me, I always just like to start by making sure you know who I am and why you're listening to me talk about this topic. But my teams and I have generated over $50 million USD, so I'm based out of the United States, but in over 10 different industries with all different types of speaking platforms, expert programs, all of those types of things. So ranging from small business training to direct service nonprofit to personal development, executive coaching, information technology, real estate. So if it exists, I've probably worked with or coached someone who's worked in that industry and understand a lot about the varying degrees of marketing and really turning your mouth into money, which is really what's key here. Turning your experience and your expertise and all the things that you do into money, and again, to the tune of over $50 million between all the various companies that I've worked for over the years. I know for all of you as well that I talk fast, and I always give this warning. I do the very best I can to slow myself down, but I am a fast talker. I get excited about the things that I talk about, so I talk loud, I talk fast. I always give the warning that in this case, I normally am not going to slow down, so you may need to slow the video down, watch it multiple times, go back and review certain things. I will do my best, and if you're watching this live, or even if you're watching this on the recording, and you're like, Ken, I need you to clarify something for me. I want you to go back and talk more about that point. I want you to understand, or I want to understand more about that. Please post in the comments. I will clarify. I'll do that as part of our preview sessions. But I'm aware and I do the best job I can to let people know that I talk fast. I even do this when I'm training for my own company and my own webinars and my own things that I do. So it's just a warning that I give for what I do. So really key point for this too. If for whatever reason you missed last week's episode, and I understand that you may not know who I am, you may not know why you're listening to me, all those things. If you missed last week's episode, you might want to check it out, and I gave a bonus in last week's session, so if you want to claim that bonus, you have to watch last week's episode to understand how. But really, I'm delivering this very similar to what Julia does and many of the other experts here in the classroom do. I'm following an order. So in last week's event, I actually talked about what's a preview event, because I know for some of you, you might go, well, what does that mean? Or why should I host a preview event? Or maybe you're already doing it and you're not calling it that. So I really want to clarify what a preview event is. So these same two slides were actually part of last week's presentation, but I want to review them again before we go into this week's session, which really talks about where do the people come from, or how do you get the people in this. But so what is a preview event? So really, the types of preview events that exist, or the ways that you start introducing yourself, is it's an event that you host yourself, or an event that you co-host with others, which I'm going to talk a lot about that tonight. A speaking event where you're not paid, but you're allowed to promote or sell at the end. That's a very common way to become known as an expert or a speaker, is to speak at wherever you can speak, really, and introduce yourself to other people. And those can range between 10 minutes and hours, depending on where you're speaking. Unpaid virtual events or summits, I'm going to talk a bit more about that today as well. If you've never heard of that, or they don't exist, even better, if they don't exist where you're watching this from, and I introduced the concept of a virtual summit or a virtual event, and you're like, I've never heard of that before. The good news is that you can start these yourself and realize just how amazing they can be. So if this doesn't exist for you, you can be a leader in bringing this to wherever you are in the world, in your country, wherever you're watching from. So if you haven't heard of that concept, really pay attention when I start talking about that, because it is a huge opportunity here in the United States and for anybody that's in the expert business or doing that type of thing. And then webinars, which I talk about, which again are just online events. Even Facebook Live can count as a preview event done the right way. So that's what a preview event is. And then in the last session, I actually went through an entire organizer, which asked you all of the different questions that you need to answer to be able to host your first event, such as what are you going to talk about? What's the next step from the event? What are the things that you need as far as logistics or planning, from your name tags that you might hand out to somebody to all the things that you're going to talk about throughout the event. And I walked through an organizer that I give to lots of different clients. Oh, welcome Leland, another great instructor here in the classroom. Thanks for being here. He says, we produced a virtual summit, Momentum Tribe. Oh, I love that word, momentum. During December 2017, a great event overall with 12 speakers over the course of the entire day. I know, summits or virtual events where you bring people together are fantastic. And I'm going to talk about that extensively tonight, because when planning your preview event or where people are going to meet you, those are a great tool to have in your tool belt, and they can bring you lots of people and help you get connected to a lot of new relationships, which is really the key. Being successful in an expert business or a speaking business has everything to do with your ability to connect to others or build relationships or network. That is the key to success. And these events are really what come once you've done that work, and we're going to talk more about that tonight. But golden tip, really important. I deliver these in every single one of the lessons, so if you take nothing else away from the things that I talk about tonight, keep in mind that your events are what you're building up to in the expert business. Your events, especially your live events, they're going to be the most important things that you do as an expert. They're where the money is going to come from, which is really important to remember. If you're going to sell products, if you're going to sell programs, if you're going to get people to participate in the various things that you do, it's going to happen at an event. That's where it's going to be. And so you have to keep that in mind, that events are the most important things you do. They're the things you work towards in the expert business. So you really want to keep that in mind. And, all these things are great about I'm advising you, start your preview event, host it as soon as you can, start putting it together as often as you can. And all that's great information. It's important for you to know, but how do you actually get people to show up? And I think this is the number one thing that people who want to host an event, whether it's online or in person, struggle. They go, well, where do the people come from? Or, once I've gone through everyone that I already know, how do I get new people to come to that event? And I understand that this is the thing that puts most speakers and most experts or people that teach or develop programs, this is what puts most of them out of business, is that they never figure out the formula, or they never figure out the key for them and their education that actually gets people coming back and coming to and then coming back to events and programs again and again and again. So on tonight's or on today or tonight, depending on where you're watching this, you might be watching this over breakfast. If so, that's okay too. But on today's session, I'm going to give you over 30 different ways that you can get people to an event. That's right, I said 30 different ways that you can use to get people to come to your event. Keep in mind, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do all 30 of these things. You could do all 30 of these things. You'll probably be really exhausted if you do all 30 of these things, but more power to you. And a lot of times over time, when you get really good at this, you might hire other people or hire teammates or work with partners to be able to get them to help fill your event or help bring people to what you do. But keep in mind, I understand, and that's why I wanted to go right into this lesson today of saying, when I tell you to plan an event, the first thing, and I mentioned this even last week, is you've got to start planning that event. And the biggest part of the plan is, where do the people come from? How do we get the audience? How do we get the people to show up for us? And that's something everyone that speaks or trains deals with at some point in what they're doing. So here's a golden tip before I even give you that information. And I say, all right, before I start going into those 30 things that I'm going to give you today, the biggest thing I can advise, and this is something that everyone I know is experiencing right now, especially people that have really used Facebook as their primary way of connecting with people and getting people to their events and getting people into their programs. There's a saying here in the United States that says, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So what this really means is you can't count on just one way or one method or one strategy of filling your event. So if you're just counting on one thing, if you say, I'm going to host an event and I'm only going to promote it on Facebook or to my Facebook group or to my Facebook profile or my Facebook page, you're taking a huge, huge risk. So don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't, count on one type of promotion to be the thing that fills your event, because trust me, even at the highest levels of the industry where people are making, $1 million or more United States, where people are making that much money and spending that much money, I've been to events where people have nobody there, or they've have 2 to 3 people that are at the event, even though they've spent a lot of money trying to get people to show up. So, and Julia says, and I totally agree, promotional partners really make it easier to grow your list in your business. I mean, that's going to be one of the strategies that I talk about today, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't count on one thing to be the only thing that fills your event. If so, you're taking a big risk, and you just don't want to do that. It's a huge piece of advice, and I'm seeing it, I promise you, with people that are my clients, with people that I coach with every day in my marketing agency. I am seeing these things happen because people are counting on one thing to do all the work, and you can't count on that in this business or industry. So that makes me say this next point: the best strategy for filling your event is multiple strategies. It's counting on a variety of different things that are actually going to make sure that people show up for what you're doing and people understand what you're doing. And again, if you're not sure what you're talking about, if you're not sure what to say, if you're not sure who you're trying to get to come to your event, again, go back to last week's lesson or go back to the previous episode where we talked about planning your perfect preview event. I walked through all of those details, and I know that Julie, I think Leland was there for part of it too, saw the organizer that we walked through, and there's an opportunity for you to get that if you want it. But today we're talking about how do we get people there. So in business, this is what you're going to find, and I'm going to move my head because I know that I'm blocking the text here again. So you notice I move my head around a lot. So in business, there are only 3 new ways to meet people. The 3 P's that I'm going to teach you here. There's only 3 new ways that you will ever meet a new person that comes into your event or that comes into your business or that reads your book or buys your program or does any of that stuff. It's 3 P's. So you can either promote, you can partner, or you can pay. So I'm gonna revisit each one of these. But again, this doesn't have the golden tip on it, but if you can walk away with one thing and you say, where do my people come from for this event? There's only 3 ways that people will ever come to anything you do. You're either going to go out and promote, or someone's going to help you promote. You're going to partner, or you're going to pay. That's the only 3 places that new relationships come from. There's no magic to any of this. It's all very strategic. It's all doing these things with a purpose. But at the end of the day, you're only doing these 3 things. This is marketing, my friends. Promotion, partnering, paying. That's where your people in the event will come from. And I'm going to break each one of these things down through today's lesson and get really specific. As I mentioned, by the time you walk out the door today, you want to stay to the very, very end because I'm going to give you over 30 different ways that you can get people into your event. And I'm going to talk about them in detail. And this can be an online event or an in-person event. The other thing that's important to remember is there are ways to do all 3 of those things. So you can promote, you can partner, and you can pay, both online and in person. So the good news is you can do these in both settings, whether it's in person or not. Oh, welcome, Alex. You got in here late, listening through headset. Thanks for being with me so late at night. Again, appreciate all of you who jump on these in the middle of the night or late night your time, or maybe in the early morning, depending on where you are. I understand and appreciate you spending the time. And again, if you're watching this on the recording, don't forget, check in. Let me know. What do you want to know? What are your questions? What are you thinking about? When you see this, is there something that's confusing that you want me to clear up a little bit more? So just make sure you leave that comment on the side right there. But the good news for you, and I'm going to break this down further, as I said, there are ways to do all 3 of those things online. So the rest of today's presentation are talking about how you promote, how you partner, or how you pay to get people to come to your event, both in person and online. And I think that most people, as I said, I will go back to that golden tip again. Most people, this is where they fall down because they put all their eggs in one basket. They focus only on online, or they focus only on in-person, or they focus on one thing that will be the one thing that gets all of their people to the event. So since you're watching this, and especially if you've never done an event either online or in person before, you're going to know you're going to have to pick a few of each of these things, which is really, really important. So I'm going to go through in order because most of you are familiar with this first model where we're talking about promoting. And really, promoting is you spending your time to get people to come to the event. So I'm going to pull this up, and this has a lot of text on it, so I may have to move my head again. We'll see how my head is looking once this comes up on my screen here. So let's talk about promoting in person. And as I said, with each section, I'm going to break this down to the in-person way and the online way because both can be really helpful for you. Both can be good for what you're trying to do. And so, I just want to make sure that, again, we're focused on that idea of making sure, and I'm going to shrink me just a smidge so that you can read all these things. So here are a variety of different ways that you can promote in person and get people to come to your live event or come to your online event. So the first one, and this is really the most important one, network or go to in-person business events. So I don't care where you are in the world. I know that wherever you are in the world, there are local events that exist for business people or for business owners. I'll talk about them a bit more as we go through this process tonight, but there are networking events that exist. If for whatever reason you find that in your town or in your wherever you are that there aren't events, good news. You get to start that group, which means that you get to be the leader of that group. But there are normally business events or business organizations or places, and if you don't know where to go, you want to get connected wherever you can to your local, wherever you get your local business license or wherever you get your local information about business. Here in the United States, it's called the Chamber of Commerce, which is where a lot of us go. That something like that exists in most countries throughout the world. So find out where the local business meetings are happening, where the local business networking events are happening, and go out and network and let people know about you, about what you do, and about your upcoming event. Most people do not spend enough time networking. In fact, I'm someone that I do a lot of in-person networking, and I have noticed that most people are counting so much on online methods to do all the work when some of the best, in fact, I would argue all of my best connections, including Julia, who brought me into this classroom, Amy, who runs this classroom, was an in-person connection that I met here. So in-person is where you have the time to have the conversation. It's where you have the time to get to know people. It's where you have the time to get really in-depth with how you connect with a person. So if you want to promote in-person, the first place you should be going are to your local networking or in-person business events. So the next one, and I put these kind of in the order that I think will be the most successful based on what you're trying to do. Attend charity or community events. And the other thing that I put in parentheses, and I know this is something that's cultural. I know for some of you, talking about anything other than church in church is inappropriate. So if this is inappropriate for you or for your religion or any of that, do not talk about your business if it's not okay. Now that said, I know many, many people here in the United States who built their entire business network through people that they knew at church or people that they met at community or charity events. So all that means is you want to be visible in your community. You want people to know that you are in business, and one of the best ways to do that and promote yourself is to attend the events in your community. Find out when the fundraisers are happening. Find out when there are volunteer drives. Find out when there are, 5K races or, running races or games in your community, football games. Find out what's happening in your community and get out in front of people as often as you can. And I'm going to deepen that when we go into the pay section. But charity or community events, especially church, if it's appropriate for you, are great places to network with people, talk to people, and let them know that you're doing an event or ask for help or start to build relationships. So again, be really sensitive to that. It's why I put in an underline, only if it's appropriate. It may not be appropriate where you're from to have business conversations in church or, to reach out to that network. But if it is, don't hesitate. All right. Share with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues, or your personal network. So here's something that people complain about a lot. New speakers complain about this a lot, and they say, oh, well, I host my online event or I host my in-person event, and only my mom shows up or my sister shows up or my friends show up or all those types of things. And they talk about that like it's a bad thing. Well, actually, it's a really good thing. It's really good if you have people that love you and care about you and support you and are willing to spend the time to show up at your event. I always used to joke that the best marketing that I could get in the world was from my grandmother. My grandmother would go out and talk to people and tell people I was the smartest person and the best person and how much she loved me and loved what I was doing. Even if she didn't understand what I was doing, she was there to support me and promote me. So it is not a bad thing to have friends, family, colleagues that you know, people in your personal network. It's not a bad thing to have those people at your event and to ask them to partner, which I'm going to talk about that in the partner section coming up here. Join your local business organizations if you can. So I referenced here in the United States, the local business associations are called chambers of commerce here in the United States. Where you are, they may be called something else. They might be called the business organization or the business center, or they might be called the licensing bureau. Whatever they're called, you want to find out where are your local business organizations and how do you join them. A lot of times there will be a fee. It's worth it a lot of the time, depending on where you are and how you are on this. Really important. Thanks, Leland. He's got to run. Try to catch the rest later. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. So join your local business organizations wherever you can. And again, I use Chamber of Commerce as an example because that's a great one here in the U.S. Use local event sites. So this is something that a lot of people don't do enough. So go to events that you find on local event sites. So again, here in the United States, and I know this is true in Canada and the United Kingdom, there are two major sites that are meetup.com and eventbrite.com. There may be something that's similar in your country, or it might just be meetup.com or eventbrite.com or facebook.com. So I will go and search for events all the time. I join meetup groups all the time so that I can go out and meet with people in person. I want to get in front of them in person and meet them, and this is a great way to do it, again, to find out where local events are happening. This might be in your local newspaper. This might be in your local magazine. It doesn't matter where it is, but you want to find where do local events get promoted. It might be a local website. Here in Boston, where I live, there's something called the Boston Calendar, which is where you find out everything that's happening. So use local event sites, find out where the events are happening, and go get in front of people. And as Alex mentions, he uses Eventbrite. It's awesome because you'll meet people that you've never met before. And that's the goal. We've got to meet new people all the time to support our business. Hand out flyers. So if you have none of these things, if you can't network and you don't have community events and you don't have friends or family or colleague, like I don't have people that are friends or family or colleagues that promote for me. I have friends I've developed over the years, but I didn't start with any of that. If nothing else, go stand on the street corner and hand out flyers, or go to your local, wherever you can, and hand out printed information or flyers that say, hey, I'm hosting an event. I would really love for you to come. Here is the card. I know when I was in Costa Rica, for example, there were people that let me know all the time. They handed me cards and they said, hey, I'm hosting an event, or this is happening tonight at this business. You should be there. So if nothing else, and you have no other way of doing it, at this point, go out, hand out flyers. And most of all, it's just about talk to people wherever you can. Wherever you can get in front of people to talk to them, you want to get in front of them. So wherever it's appropriate to talk to people, and that's where I said local business events, friends and family, business organizations, church, wherever you meet people, wherever people are, have conversations and practice inviting people to do what you're doing. So these ways right here could be enough to fill your event. Now, as I said, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't try just one thing. So the good news is there's ways to promote online as well. So here's some ways that you can promote online. So first and foremost, and you hear about this from every expert leader here in Amy Carrier's classroom, send messages to potential attendees directly. So look for people that you want to attend your event, maybe people you meet in this classroom, whoever it is, and send them a message and let them know, hey, I'm hosting an event. It's going to be online or it's going to be in person. Send them a message and let them know. I would love to have you attend. Make this a personal message. Make it something that's personal from you. I feel you would get a lot of benefit out of it. If you know why, if it's someone that you're a friend or a colleague with, make sure that you let them know why you want them to be there. Not rather than it's just a great event and they should be there. Send messages to them directly. A lot of times that will get a lot of people involved in what you're doing. In fact, I'm working with a client right now who is not sending direct messages like that at this point. She started sending them, and she went from having 7 people registered to her event to having over 300 people registered for her event just by sending messages alone. By sending out, hey, I wanted to get in touch with you and let you know I would love for you to attend my class, or I would love for you to attend my preview event. And that is a great strategy to get people to come to what you're doing. Share the event and share what you're doing on all of your relevant profiles and pages. So anywhere you anywhere you have a profile, Facebook, LinkedIn, if you have Skype or Zoom, wherever you can post something in your profile saying, I have an event, post it wherever you can. All of your profiles and pages. Post it on your dating site. Whatever it is, wherever you can get people who are going to read something, post your event on all of your profiles, on all of your pages. Let people know that it's happening. Join relevant groups and connect with others. So just like I said in person that you can do, what you can do is join other groups on Facebook, just like our Amy Carrier's Classroom here. You can join networking groups in your country. You can join business groups in your country. You can find various groups. So join them and send out some messages, connect with others, have conversations, get to know people, and let them know that you're going to be hosting an event and invite them to what you're doing. Another great way to do it in the online space. Attend other online trainings and events, and then I put in parentheses, and use the chat. So I know a lot of you seem to be very shy about using the chat. I see this in the other classes as well when I poke my head into watch. So many people are too shy about using the chat. In fact, what I found is just by when I go and watch someone train, like if I'm in Alex's class or Leland's class or Julia's class, I always leave a comment, or I always leave multiple comments. Even if I'm the only one that's leaving comments, I leave comments. Do you know why? Because then the speaker notices that I'm there and they acknowledge me. So like I did that today with Julia. She saw me in the class. Oh, hey, Ken, how are you doing? Just like I do with everybody. So I get acknowledged as someone that's in the room. And when people watch the replay or people come back later, a lot of times they'll see my name and I'll have people connect with me, or I'll have people send a message. So don't be shy when you're attending these events. Use the chat. Ask your questions. Introduce yourself in the chat room. Let us know where you are and where you're from, so that if someone else is watching that's from your area, they can connect with you. It's not just about us as the speaker. It's about making sure that you're connecting to everyone else that's watching. So if other people are watching this, you want to connect with them and let them know you're out there. So use the chat functions. And then, as I mentioned, create online previews with Facebook Live and YouTube. So I've done this here in the classroom where I will do a preview to the preview. So I'll do a 5 or a 10-minute Facebook Live, and I'm like, hey guys, letting you know I'm going to be there, and letting you know that, I'm going to be doing an event that I want you to come to, and sharing information about that. All of us instructors here in the room do that. So create previews for your previews where you do that. Julia says, and I love you for leaving the comments. It makes the class much more interesting. It's true for mine too. In fact, I would prefer my class over time to just be conversation. Like, I would love if we had versions of this class where people just showed up and asked questions and I just answered them. I know how valuable that is for all of you that are watching, and that's true for me. Like, I would rather teach you what you want to know. Right now, I'm teaching you ways that I know you can build your business and that you can make money and you can turn your mouth into money. I know that's what I know and what I'm here to do. But over time, I'd much rather answer your questions and give you what you want, as opposed to making it up for you or telling you what that is. But until that time, I have plenty to teach. So I'll be here to teach plenty. So again, to recap, send messages out, share it on all your profiles and pages, join groups, join other networks and get connected, attend other trainings and leave messages in the comments. Make sure you're doing that. And then create previews to your preview event. So let people know, hey, on this date, at this time, I'm going to be doing an event and I want you to be there. Let people know. So that's a great way to promote online. So at this point, we've only made it through one of these areas. Just promoting in person and online could fill your event. Now remember, we're not going to just choose one type of promotion. And a lot of times people don't do the next two areas enough. A lot of people don't partner enough, and a lot of people are afraid to pay. They're afraid to do ads. They're afraid to pay for it, which a lot of times these can take a lot of time and energy and pain off your plate. Promoting this way is, if you have no money or no resources or you're just getting started, is great. But this is really time consuming. As you've heard me say, it's really time consuming to spend all your time promoting. And it can be very, very effective. It's great to do that. But these next two ways are like shortcuts. They're ways that you can move faster into getting people into what you want to do. And that's partnering and paying, which we're going to talk about. So And again, golden tip, and I just brought this up because it's important. Promoting is trading your time for relationships. So there is a cost to promotion, and it's time. Your time is really important. And as a speaker and an expert, what you're going to learn is the value of your time becomes more and more important. What you focus on and what you put energy towards is what's going to determine how much money you make or how successful you are in your business. So your time is your most important your most important thing in the speaking and expert business. So remember that promoting is trading your time for relationships or trading someone else's time for relationships. So don't forget about these other two and the next set of about 20 different ways to promote I'm going to give you. So let's talk about partnering. So we've talked about promoting. Let's talk about partnering and partnering in person. And these are ways that you can work with other people or even have other people tell people about your event or what you're doing. So I underline this. People, for whatever reason, are super duper scared of this one, but it is the most important activity you can do, and it's how most businesses get successful. They ask for referrals. So who do you ask for referrals? Anyone who will listen. Anyone who will listen. So those friends, those family members, those colleagues, your old coworkers, people who've been to your events before, anyone that will listen, you want to ask them for referrals. So you want to say, do you know anyone else who would benefit from this event? Do you know anyone else who needs this training? Do you have friends or colleagues or people that would benefit from what we're doing here? Do not be shy about asking for referrals. In fact, my business at this point is primarily referral based, which means all the time, and Julia and Alex and Leland and Amy and all the people here in this classroom are people that I ask for referrals. Who do you know who would benefit from this class? Who do you know? Like, and I'm asking you, if you're watching this right now on the, either live or on the recording, and you're saying, wow, I get a lot of value out of this. I have a friend that should really see it. Please share this. Post this in a group. Send this as a message to someone else. Like, send this recording out to someone, and that's my way of asking for referrals. I want you to send this out to whomever you can that would get something out of it, that wants to learn how to speak for a living or wants to learn how to be an expert. Ask for referrals to anyone who will listen, and ask for them regularly. Don't just ask once and then hide. Ask them again and again and again. So to me, one way that you can do this, and this is not an in-person way, I'll talk about online in a second, but asking for referrals in person is whenever you talk to someone, even if they say no, they're not going to come to your event or they're not going to work with you, you start with, who do you know who? And so I would put that, who do you know who? Who do you know who should come to this event? Who do you know who would benefit from this teaching? Who do you know who needs help with speaking? Or who do you know who needs help with marketing? I love what Alex says. Done. I hope you will go through the event services in a later session for sure. But who do you know who? That's the really critical question you can ask when asking for referrals. Write that down. Who do you know who? Okay, so that's number one. Partnering in person, asking other people for referrals. That will build your business faster than anything else you can do. Ask for speaking time at other local events or groups. So when you use those local event sites, when you use Meetup or Eventbrite or any of those things, what you'll notice is on each of those sites, there's a place that says the organizer. There's a place that says who's hosting that event, whether it's a business or whether it's a person. So what most people are afraid to do, but I'm not, and I know everyone watching this is not, I will click that button and I will send them an email or I will send them a message and I will say, hey, Alex, I would love to speak on your platform. I would love to speak at your event. And you can do this when you're out at networking groups or when you're out talking to people. Ask for speaking time. So say, look, I would love to get 5 minutes or 10 minutes at your event to tell people about my event or what I do or why they should attend this class. So don't be shy about saying, hey, do you have 5 minutes where I could come in and promote, or 5 minutes where I can share about what I do? A lot of times nobody asks. And this is the thing. Like, if somebody asked me, and said, hey, I would love to, talk about something related to what you're doing, I'd say that's wonderful. You totally should do that. It's great. So don't be afraid and don't be shy about asking for speaking time at other local events or other groups. Ask. You'll find that a lot of times people will be excited to have you. They're, oh, great. I would love to have you come and talk to my people or talk to my group. And this is how I build my business as well. I let people come and speak to my audience all the time. So don't be afraid to do that. And then underneath that, it's different. Speak at other people's events. So instead of just focusing on your local, business groups and your local stuff, you can just ask people, speak at other people's events. And then this one is the key. And I would say that this is what you see in an online sense. I'm going to talk about that more on the next slide, but in an online sense, share the stage with other speakers and experts. So what you see us doing here in Amy Carrier's classroom is a big group of us experts get together and we all talk about our different area of expertise. Well, you can do this with your preview event as well. You can have other experts that come in and get time on the stage. You can have other experts that if you let them speak, they also have to promote. So all of us have to promote this classroom. We promote our class and we promote other people's classes. And part of that also brings a lot of new people into what we're doing. So don't be afraid to share the stage with other speakers or experts and give them time, because then you have two people promoting instead of just one. And so you could be getting in front of their audience and then you can be getting in front of my audience. And so we do a trade, which basically says we share the stage. And what Julia says, that's true. If it enhances their business, they want you on their stage. And that's absolutely true. You would be shocked at how much stage time is available, or how easy it is to just ask and say, hey, I would love to come and share something with your group, or share something at your event, or co-promote an event with you. I do this with people all the time. In fact, I would say it's almost weekly that I do these co-branded events with people where I promote them and they promote me, and we work together to put people in a preview event. It is the best way to do it, in my opinion. Then from there, I also mentioned in person, join local referral organizations. So here in the United States, and I know many other countries around the world, there's an organization called Business Network International, or BNI. BNI is extremely popular here in the United States. They have chapters all over the place that are really important. So BNI, or something like it, exists in most countries around the world at this point. So join local referral organizations such as BNI and ask for referrals that way. So now let's talk about online. So partnering online at this point. So this is the number one thing that, again, people get scared or they get nervous or they think, I shouldn't do this. So reach out to influencers or people that have a large following. So if you see someone that has a lot of people, or they have a lot of Facebook friends, or they have a lot of people in their group, reach out to them and say, hey, I'm doing a preview event. I would love to share some information, or I would love, to partner with you so that we can share this with your people. So reach out to influencers, people who have large groups or large networks full of people. Trade interviews. So this is another thing you can do online, and we do this all the time. Trade interviews, and then I also put in parentheses, or just get interviewed. So go out and find people who have shows, who have classrooms. You don't have to spend anything to do this. You can go find people that have shows like this and say, I would love to be interviewed because I have an event coming up, or I have a preview event that I want people to see. So trade interviews. And then I mentioned share the online stage with other speakers and experts. So just like I talked about in person, where you share the stage and you do an event in person, you can do the same thing online. And we all do that here. That is exactly how Amy Carrier's classroom came to be. Amy shares the stage with all of us as experts. So this is a big one. Participate in online giveaways or summits, or create your own. So what that means is you do a series where you bring in 5 to 10 different speakers on different topics, or on the same topic, whatever it is, and you interview each of them, and everyone gives away a free gift, whether that is a download or a training or something like that. Everyone pitches in a gift. So we all say, great, we're all going to give away, a download like the one I gave away last week. And so all of us then send to promote this event, this online giveaway or this online summit. So the 12 of us pitch in a gift, and the 12 of us post it all on our Facebook page, and we send it to our email lists, and we do all that stuff. And then, all of us get the benefit of being in front of all of those people. So we share or pool our resources. We put our resources together so that everybody gets in front of each other's resources. So if you've never heard of that, or you've never heard of an event like that, you should do one yourself. So pull together other experts in your space and host a giveaway where everyone pitches in a gift and then everyone has to promote. So everyone has to share it on their pages, send it to their email list. It is a great model to get new people to your preview event and to get new people to come into what you're doing. And then finally, join affiliate marketing communities. So there are many communities online with people who their business is to promote. There are many people who build lists, email lists or social friends or followings or whatever, who they don't speak themselves, but their job is just to promote other people's businesses. You can find influencers or affiliate marketers by doing that. In fact, some of you may have done this before, where you tell somebody else about someone else's product. So there are communities like clickbank.com, and there are many, many others worldwide that you can join that are people who are affiliate marketers, who are willing to share your event or share what you're doing with other people. So many, many different ways to partner online. So golden tip about this stuff: when you are partnering with anybody, whether it's in person or online, just focus on being a great partner. Focus on what you can do to help them and be as helpful as you can. If you focus on being a great partner and being someone that's super helpful and super willing and super open to working with other people, then you will in time have way more people that want to help you. If you help others, others will help you. So when you get into these partnerships, focus on being the best partner you can be. Focus on helping the other person get what they want. If they want to speak more, then focus on that. Focus on whatever you can do, whatever you have at your disposal to be a great partner to people. Because when you give, you will receive. And for me, I've had people that I've partnered with over the years that at first, they couldn't do anything for me. They couldn't help. They didn't have a list. They couldn't promote. I just showed up and helped them and did everything I could do to be a great partner, whether it was time or advice or whatever it is. I focused on being a great partner. And then later, those people tend to come back, or they introduce me to other people that might be partners, or they plug me into their network. So when I'm a great partner, I get lots more opportunity for doing that. So focus on being a really good resource and being as helpful as you can. So let's talk about the last one. So we've talked about promoting, we've talked about partnering, now we're on to paying. So this is the fastest way to get in front of people, and a lot of people are scared of it because, yes, you have to put money down to get this to happen. So let's talk about ways that you can pay in person. So you can buy ad space. So buy a billboard, get a spot on a sign, print out some flyers, get something visual that you can print and hand to someone. So don't be afraid to buy ad space wherever you are. You see ads all day, every day. Why not yours? Why not your event? Why not what you're doing? So you can buy ad space in person, or you can hang a sign somewhere. Advertise in your local community paper or your magazine, whether that's online or offline. Don't be afraid to do that. Let people know that your event's coming up. And if you have something that's local that, people read or people look at consistently, make sure you find a way to advertise in it. And you can pay a lot of times to get ad space. Instead of just attending those local events or charity events, a lot of times you can sponsor them. So if you have the ability to sponsor them and give them a donation or get a booth, even better, sponsor those events so that your name appears right next to the event. So when they say, they're the local community organization sponsored by Ken Course, my name's right next to their name. So do not hesitate to sponsor those local gatherings and local events, because that gets you double, because the community organization's really happy that you gave them money to host their event, and so they want to help you. So that gets you a partner. But then also people at the event will see, hey, you sponsored this event. You helped this event become a reality. So don't be afraid to sponsor events. I also mentioned this: buy vendor or partner space at your event or at events with a promotion requirement. So a lot of times you can buy vendor or partner space at an event. I meant to say at an event, not your event. So buy vendor or partner space at an event, And I'll also say that there's a promotion requirement in that. So if you buy that space, a lot of times that will come with the ability to speak on stage, or that will come with an advertisement in the program, or your name will show up on their promotional material. So don't be afraid to buy vendor or partner space that gets you in front of people at popular events. In fact, that's another way. Some great businesses I know, that's the biggest way they get people into their events, is they buy the vendor space, or they buy the booth, or they buy the table, and they put their stuff, their flyers and their stuff on the table to get people. You can buy speaking or sponsor time at other events. So sometimes you can just go and say, look, I don't want to just partner with you. I will pay you to get on your stage and speak for 90 minutes or 60 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. That is another way to get in really fast. So if you're just willing to pay to get on a stage to tell people about your event, your preview event, or even your programs or the things that you do not be afraid to buy speaking or sponsor time at other people's events. It can be another great strategy. And then finally, pay online. These are the ones that I think are the most popular these days. Everyone's kind of focused on these, sometimes over-focused on them, but they're very, very popular for a reason. So you can do Facebook ads. So Facebook ads also includes Instagram if you want to do advertising on that. So you can buy an advertisement for your in-person or online event with Facebook ads. Google ads, so you can do that with Google AdWords, also includes YouTube. I also put ad networks. You may have a different ad network in your local country. Many places have networks where you can go and you can pay to put a promotion of your event in front of people. You can pay event sites. So as I mentioned, Meetup, Eventbrite, etc. Again, you can pay to be on those sites to get premium space so that when people log into the site, they see your event first. So you can pay those event sites to get in front of people, which is really critical to do. Pay influencers or sponsors to promote to their list. So when I said always try to partner with them first. So if you can partner with an influencer and not have to pay them, that's always better. But sometimes they just want you to sponsor them. They'll say, all right, I have a following of 10,000 people. If you pay me $500 American, then I will send 2 promotions for your event out to my people. So a lot of times you can just pay for that. And some influencers or people with lists will require it. Or you can just buy lists, buy leads, buy lists of people. And there are many, many sites that, especially depending on where you are locally, that you can find people that have lists of people or lists of leads so that you can contact them and let them know about your event. So it is possible to buy lists of people. If you have the money to invest in these things, do not be afraid to find these people and to use these platforms. Facebook ads, especially here in the United States over the past year, is the biggest way that many of the speakers I know in the world who are very successful market their events and market their business. They let people know that they exist through Facebook ads. So Facebook ads, Google ads, ad networks in your local country, event sites, influencers or sponsors, leads. You can buy them. You can just buy lists of people. So that's pay. So remember the golden tip I talked about, promotion is trading your time. Well, paying is trading your money for relationships or leads. So a lot of times that's faster than dealing with time. And if you have been making sales, or you are having some success, or you have investors, or you have help, use them, because this can make things go a lot faster in getting people to your event. Do not be afraid to pay. So here's the secret. And I always like to say, shh. So here's the secret. The best strategy, it normally includes at least one of each of these methods. And the best models are normally 2 to 3 at best. So I gave you about 30 tips there, or 30 ways that you can get people to come to your event. So you want to try, probably when you're starting, one of each. So you want to try one way that you promote online and in person. You want to try one way that you partner in person and online, and one way that you pay in person and online. So that's where you start, one of each. You pick the one that felt the best to you, or that you feel you can get the furthest with. But the best strategy normally includes at least one of each of those. So one promotion online or in person, one partner online or in person, or one pay online or in person. Now, another secret, filling an event's hard. Like this, you noticed when I give you all these tips, filling an event can be really hard, but it's worth it. And doing that work and getting people to your event, whether it's online or in person, is worth it. Because as I mentioned, and the golden tip I'm going to show up again at this point is really to say before I go there, is that events are where you make your money. They're where you make your sales. They're where people find out about what you do in your programs and the things that you offer. It's where the action happens. And for me, again, you should be in an event company or a speaking company or an expert company. You should always be focused on your next event and how you're promoting it, how you're partnering for it, and how you're paying to get people there. Because if you bring people consistently to events, even if it's 5 to 10 people, when you're starting, you will find customers. You will find people that want to work with you. You'll find people that want to take your programs or take your events or be in your trainings. You'll find people that want to do these various things for you. And so if you're watching this today and you said, great, I have a follow-up question, I have something you want to talk about on Expert Momentum, I have more that I want you to cover at this point, I always mention, respond to this post. So let me know, what did you like? What was confusing? What worked for you? Send me a direct message. Let me know. Especially if you watch last week's, I have a gift for you if you send me a direct message. Or send me an email. I put ken@kencourse.com. Send me an email, whatever way works for you, to give me some feedback. What did you like? What do you want to know more of? If anything was confusing, what do you want me to clarify? But really, go forth. Start filling your event, put an event date on the calendar, whether it's online or offline, and start moving it forward. I promise you, if you need to make sales, if you want your own business, if you want to be known and figure out how to turn your mouth into money or to become that expert, these are the ways to do it. Preview events, and in fact, in many ways, this is a preview event for me, just like Julia and Alex's classes are preview events for them. So leverage and use what I taught you today. But if you have questions or you're confused, that's what I'm here for. So our goal, as I said, is to fill these events. I understand that it's hard. I promise you, it's worth it. I'm always here to provide value. Do not hesitate to get in touch with me. I'm super excited for each of you, and I hope that this was a great lesson for all of you out there today. And again, I'm here to support and help you however I can, here in the classroom or on my own time. My name is Ken Course. Let's get your first preview event promoted and filled. I'm very grateful for all of you for being here today, and we'll see you next week on another episode of Expert Momentum.